afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I am Sneha Sharma. I am the lead analyst at Nasscom Insights. And today, as you know, we are not just analyzing another cyclical industry report or, reviewing any routine quarterly metrics. We are here to talk about a fundamental and permanent and structural, so to say, shift in how global businesses are being designed, engineered, and executed. So, for decades, we've seen the narrative surrounding the Indian technology ecosystem changing, and it was following a very predictable line. So, in 1900s and early 2000s, we saw that we were being viewed exclusively as the back office of the world. A transactional engine, so to say, was built on labor arbitrage. But by 2010s, that model actually matured and we became the global delivery engine. We were prized for process efficiency and massive scale. But as we look at the landscape in this year of 2026, we have broken completely through those old paradigms. And we have entered what we call as the GCC Value Orbit. This new era is actually defined by a reality where global capability centers are no longer just peripheral satellites. They are the core of these global corporations. And today I will be talking about our recently released GCC landscape report, which is titled the GCC Value Orbit from Delivery Engine to Enterprise Nerve Center, which describes a reality where the strategic pulse, the technology, blueprint, and the operational future of a multinational, company are being determined in India. GCCs are no longer, just doing the work that is being assigned by their parent company. They are determining the capability of the global enterprise itself. Over the next 35 to 40 minutes, I want you to take through the drivers of this transformation, supported by the latest data, and show you how the world's most sophisticated organizations are leveraging India to reinvent their global footprint. So, to begin, I just want to emphasize that as Nasscom, our core mission is as a premier, industry body of the Indian tech industry has always been the champion, to champion actually the growth and success of the GCC ecosystem. In fact, we take a great pride in having, pioneered and coined the GCC term ourselves. Because we operate strictly as a non-profit industry catalyst, completely independent of consulting or commercial interest, we have absolutely no vested stake other than the collective advancement of the tech community. And throughout this journey, our foundational methodology and definition of what constitutes a GCC have remained entirely consistent and uncompromised. Our only goal as Nasscom is to provide you with, unbiased, objective, trusted anchor to actually help Indian ecosystem thrive. On the screen, you can see some of the, definitions that we have of what is a GCC, what does not comprise as a GCC for us. So all of that you can see. To begin, I will start with the numbers. So the scale you can see we are witnessing today is completely unprecedented. As of 2026, we have officially crossed the 21117 established GCCs in India. And to put that into perspective, our 500, over 500 of these centers in the total count did not exist a few short years ago. They are entirely new market entities that were bypassed, that has bypassed the traditional progression and stood up against the, advanced operations from day one. But the real story isn't just the headcount or the real estate, it's the financial velocity that they are bringing in. The GCC market in India, it has accelerated into a 98.4 billion powerhouse, which is compounding at a remarkable 9.9 CAGR over the last 5 years. And this economic engine supports a highly specialized talent base of 2.36 million professionals. And these are not any, generic operators. These are data scientists, cloud architects, chip designers, and principal domain engineers, for example. So what is actually driving this massive surge, and what are the actual growth drivers? Um, it is actually the democratization of the GCC model. Historically, we've seen that setting up a captive center was exclusive, for big conglomerates. But now we see that even the mid-market is moving very aggressively. We now track 583 centers belonging to the mid-market companies in the 100 billion to 1 million bracket, and this is of the parent company. Uh, Here you can see, like, look at the P landscape, the private equity landscape. Today we see 504 centers in the in that bracket, established by entirely these P-backed firms, and instead of relying on the legacy outsourcing vendors, or P firms are actually directly establishing GCCs in India to drive operational value, software engineering speed, and margin expansion across their different portfolio companies. This proves that GCC model is no longer an optional IT initiative that it used to be. It is a core corporate finance strategy for global growth. Moving ahead, where is this growth coming from? So like I was saying, it is diversifying rapidly across, three major axes that you can see here: the geography, the sectoral breadth, and the enterprise variety. So geographically, we have seen that US has been dominating, and it continues to hold the anchor share at around 63%. And we are seeing a massive acceleration from non-traditional regions as well. Europe now commands 13% of the footprint, and UK stands at 7.5. So in the last 24 months alone, we have witnessed over 50 brand new centers established from nations like Denmark, Belgium, and UAE. And as global corporate boards realize that localized tech talent pools are no longer sufficient to sustain digital transformation. Coming to the sectors, we see that the industry sectors have, the industry sectors which have been entering India have completely shattered the old BFSI and IT services mold. We are seeing that highly specialized and, asset heavy, and asset light also micro verticals are establishing deep tech hubs. Consider the recent entry of a global luxury cruise operators and elite international sports streaming brands like Dazen. They didn't just come to India to establish standard billing or customer support teams. They have come to build the high concurrency video streaming engines and real time logistics platforms that not just powers their digital operations globally, but give them an edge, as compared to their peers. And similarly, talking about FMCG giants like Carlsberg, we have set who have, come in the last, past 2 years, have set up their advanced hubs to handle global supply chain and, optimization and predictive demand forecasting in India. So India is no longer being viewed as an offshore backup plan. It is now becoming a premier environment for global survival and market expansion. And like we spoke about the enterprises variety from G2000 to mid market firms, the architecture is actually evolving. Moving ahead, we see that the this diversification is forcing an evolution, so to say, in the global mandates as well, which we see across some of these parameters. And of course, there are more details in our full report. I just wanted to touch upon on few. The functional governance, to start with, over 90% of the GCCs in India operate as multifunctional portfolio hubs. they are, dismantling the old internal walls. The same facility that, houses enterprise cybersecurity also contains the global product design today and the strategic corporate treasury operations as well, probably. So we are witnessing the birth of a distributed grid as well. As companies expand beyond the traditional, tier one hubs, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So approximately we saw about 5% of, the GCC units being set up in tier two and three cities in the last 1 year. And this is not just about the real estate cost that they want to take on. It's a deliberate strategy to, tap into highly stable and brilliant local university talent system that we have, and which are actually untouched by the intense, talent wars of the metro regions. Now, coming to engineering mastery, we are seeing a massive shift towards high value, complex ER&D, especially among the America, origin GCCs. And they are moving away from basic support and capturing a much higher share of core product and platform work. Especially when you see in critical sectors like semiconductors, telecom, and aerospace. So when it comes to the market entry, we've seen a lot of partnership models arising, a lot of symbiotic nature of partnerships coming up, and the process of market entry for GCCs have been heavily streamlined because of this through some of the flexible frameworks like BOT, ODC, and hybrid models as well. And this operational agility is backed by also, progressive policy reforms, particularly in, transfer pricing and making it significantly easier for them to do business in India. Moving on, so here are the, four key shifts that has taken place in the GCC ecosystem. The first shift that we see here is from volume to value. We are moving past the era of just scaling headcount and headcount driven operations. The focus now is entirely on ownership. So meaning GCCs are driving high impact strategic outcomes and capturing direct business value. And I go in detail to each of these in the further slides, but going to the next, the leading AI mandate. So AI isn't just a experimental pilot anymore. It's becoming a core operational mandate for everyone. And we are seeing global enterprises scale production ready and AI driven solutions across their entire business ecosystem to actually drive real execution. The third is the redesigning work. So the workplace model is being completely reinvented, and it is no longer just about the standard task executions that the parent organization gives to the GCC. We are restructuring teams around different deep specialized expertise and leveraging the environment itself as a massive productivity driver. The fourth shift is around the ecosystem orchestrator. So organizations are breaking out their internal silos to act as central orchestrators by actively integrating startups, academia, and specialized service providers. They are building a collaborative network that acts as a true value force multiplier. So, just to double click on each of this, the theme one that we have spoken about in our report as well, the shift from, volume to value. This signifies that, the global trust threshold has been completely crossed. In the past, corporate headquarters would, hold core intellectual properties and, critical risk systems and corporate governance close to their, chest. But sending only routine execution tasks downstream was happening. So today the absolute inverse has started to take place. Indian GCCs are taking complete end-to-end strategic sovereignty over some mission critical platforms that they own. And our data shows that 45% of all the GCCs in India now operate with complete product and portfolio mandates, meaning they control not just the roadmap, the budget, and the architectural destiny of the enterprise stack as well. So for centers which were established after 2021, in the past 5 years, that number has actually skyrocketed, to an astonishing 96%. And even 64% of the centers now operate under the integrated site plus, global business unit sort of leaders, where the leader in India is simultaneously the global head of that business line as well. And that's a big shift happening. If I could take an example here, look at the BFSI sector, for instance. Premier global, investment house established its hub in Hyderabad, and instead of assigning them the maintenance tickets for, the legacy softwares that they had, they handed the center full digital product ownership of their flagship asset management platform. And today, that platform directly manages over 10 trillion in assets under management, and every line of code, every algorithmic risk assessment, and every UI adjustment is owned, executed, and deployed directly out of the Hyderabad center. And that is the definition of the value orbit that I have been talking about. Moving on to the next theme, the leading AI mandate. So we know the absolute defining technology of our AI, era is AI, and India is no longer adopting AI after it is, built in Silicon Valley. India is actually industrializing AI for the global enterprises. We currently have, 250K AI and machine learning professionals in the country, and we have established more than 250, dedicated AI COEs. Our 2026 landscape report states that 49% of all newly established GCCs in the last 5 years are AI first from inception. And they do not have legacy technical debt to, unwind. They build their data layers, their data models, sorry, and their automation layers, their predictive, capabilities straight into the core infrastructure from day one. And 70% of all existing centers have moved past casual experimentation and have fully adopted an integrated AI operating model. So we are seeing this in advanced healthcare, industrial sectors as well. For example, medical technology leaders like Medtronic use their Indian R&D centers to embed deep learning AI models directly into surgical visualization platforms and remote patient monitoring software. They are moving away from isolated proof of concepts and focusing more entirely on the creating scalable and regulatory compliant AI systems, which actually can be instantly deployed into hospitals worldwide. So India has become the production factory for global enterprise intelligence, so to say. But yeah, more details in the report. Please do, download and have a look at more in-depth insights that we have. Uh, Moving on to the theme three. Like I said, the complete re-engineering of the workforce and the workplace is happening. And because the nature of the value has evolved, the human capital strategy must, also change. We are observing a highly calculated selective pause at the junior talent level. For roles requiring 0 to 5 years of experience, standard hiring has leveled off. So, and why is this happening? Because generative AI tools and automated code generation platforms are actually absorbing those entry level development and routine support tickets. And the modern GCCs does not need thousands of junior programmers. It needs expertise density, and the focus has shifted aggressively towards hiring senior professionals with more than 10 to 15 years of deep domain expertise, and like I was talking about, ER&D expertise in complex architecture, design capabilities, and cross-functional leadership roles as well. So that's a shift that we have seen. Moving ahead, where are these elite professionals that we are talking about working? The environment has shifted completely away from the uninspired high density cubicle farms of the past. So modern GCC facilities are designed to be, hospitality grade standards. These spaces are constructed with clear net zero, pathways, holding top tier LED and well, certifications to align with the global corporate ESG mandates as well. And they are increasingly featuring, specialized prototype labs, advanced silicon validation benches, and immersive design studios also. So when you walk into a newly designed GCC in Bangalore or Gurgaon today, you will find state-of-the-art collaborative, environments that are, resembling the high-end design academics or research institutes rather than, corporate IT centers that used to be. And these spaces are very purpose-built to, foster spontaneous collaboration and spark deep engineering breakthroughs and act as absolute magnet for top tier talent who refuse to work in legacy corporate environments. Uh, Moving ahead, the last theme that we have is the ecosystem orchestrator. So a modern center does not just operate in a vacuum today. It sits at the center of a rich network that we have in India, connecting to different sorts of traditional service providers, specialized startup sandboxes, and academic research institutions and government bodies. So by leveraging these integrated networks, our GCC actually multiplies its operational speed, allowing them to, run rapid technology pilots and bring innovations to market months ahead of their, global competitors. Uh, for, instance, if a GCC is partnering with a service provider and a startup, they are able to achieve synergistic growth and co-innovation. They use these service providers to dramatically de-risk market entry and handle tactical scale, which actually frees up the internal teams to own core R&D, and simultaneously they are able to plug into startup sandboxes to inject different sorts of disruptive IP and run rapid technology pilots without heavy, upfront capital. Secondly, if the GCC is, interacting and, bridging the gap with academia and government, it actually helps them build true operational resilience through joint research and, probably niche curricula that they build with the universities. They are able to build reliable, long-term talent pipelines for complex, skills. This is further solidified by aligning with government bodies to leverage different sorts of fiscal incentives that they're building, favorable policies for them to, attract more and more GCCs and scalable, national infrastructure. And ultimately, this isn't just about collaboration for the, sake of networking. It's about actually building a ready to plug ecosystem. It allows a GCC to launch fast, absorb different sorts of market shocks that keep arising given the geopolitical situations, and bring innovations to market months ahead of the global competitors. Uh, Moving ahead, as we look into the immediate future, our mandate as an industry is clear. We must drive continuous GCC reinvention. Uh, so the metrics of success has permanently changed. If your center is still measuring its primary value based on cost savings or FT headcount expansion or basic SLA compliance, you are operating in a bygone era. The sorry, the modern era and the modern criteria for relevance is defined entirely uh, by the speed of innovation today, by the decision influence that you have in your company, and the ecosystem maturity that you are able to leverage from the Indian ecosystem. So GCCs must transition from our leadership, teams, from being excellent operational managers into becoming more of visionary custodians of global enterprise intelligence. They should also navigate the transition from being a labor cost arbitrage by aggressively amplifying their domain expertise, embedding more robust AI governance, and designing the core digital twin models that will probably help govern global corporate operations.